If you load it up big, you better clear the rest. The solvent list takes away all my stress. Life's been feeling like kind of a mess. I'll never let a hater make me think less, because everything before this was just a test.
Bagsy Chronicles.
I'm riding, all the homies with me. Yeah, we've been getting hella faded. Just like our eyes, we be staying low-key. Vibing out, oh, we're staying medicated. I'm riding, all the homies with me. Yeah, we've been getting hella faded. Just like our eyes, we be staying low-key.
Hello, and welcome back to the Bagseed Chronicles. I am your host, Uncle Dig, and as always, it has been too long. I have a wonderful show for you today. A quick garden update, because I am once again growing cannabis. I've got an indoor autoflower run going right now. Today, I also have a nice chat with Lukas Barfield of the Cannabis Corner and Ganjapreneurs fame. And we talked to him a little bit about some of the work he's doing with the Tacoma Psychedelic Society. And then we are going to debut an electronic track that he produced and released as part of an electronic music compilation. All that and more coming up. But before all that, I bet you're wondering what's going on in my garden. Uncle Dig's garden update. We are in the forever summer of the artificial dawn, so gardening zone doesn't matter, i.e. we're growing indoors. It is cold as balls, but not inside. I am in a bit of an experimental mood. Taking these little breaks from growing always invigorates the urge to grow and experiment with the plant, which for me means making new mistakes. I am growing in a mixture of ocean forest from Fox Farms and some dry amendments, worm castings. I do think I forgot to amend this soil when I recycled it, and this is its second or third run with this batch. I had some rough starts in one of the tents due to some lighting malfunctions. Basically, the dimmer in my oldest SF1000 from Spider Farmer is going out, so the seedlings were having trouble getting established in that tent because the light was too dim. I have scrapped 2 plants already and have restarted that grow. I will probably just have 1 plant in that tent under that light, a Blue Eyes White Dragon from Gemseeker Genetics. It's at about a day 4. Big thanks to Cave Main from Gemseeker Genetics for the hookup. I am also have been experimenting this run with direct sowing. I still soak the seeds for 24 hours, but then after that, I plant them a ½ inch down into the soil. I think 1 inch may be better. I'll do that next time. And then they just pop up. My second larger 2x2 is going well, and I have 2 autoflowers well established in there at day 14. I did make one mistake, though, and gave them K-Humate fertilizer from Bokashi Earthworks, which is actually supposed to be for flowering, not veg. But they seem okay. They seem a bit leggy, too. Like I said, I think burying the seeds a full inch may be the way to go next time. I could also adjust the lights. Both of those autoflowers are from Multiverse Genetics, the Titan 9 and the Starfruits. The way they are growing so far has me optimistic for a good harvest, but it's way too early in veg to tell. They're very sensitive to disruption in veg being autoflowers. Big thanks to Paul from Multiverse for hooking these seeds up. Well, that's it for my garden update. Let's overgrow the world.
And everybody, please join me in welcoming to the Bagseed Chronicles, Lukas Barfield. Lukas Barfield is a musician, a DJ, a disability advocate, a cannabis advocate and educator, and radio host of the radio show on the Radio Tacoma, the Cannabis Corner. Please join me in welcoming Lukas Barfield to the Bagseed Chronicles.
Hey, Uncle Dig, how's it going?
It is going great. Thank you for taking the time this fine weekend morning to take a brief conversation to talk about some things you've been involved with up at Tacoma on the Bagseed Chronicles.
Hey, no problem, man. Lots going on up here in Tacoma. It's really freezing today. I don't know about down there in Oregon, but we got frost on the ground, and it's been a warm winter, but we've been getting some cold weather the past week or two.
Yeah, it's been very cold last night. I think we had an overnight low of 20. I have a
Wow.
I have a plant
It's even
called
more than us.
Yeah, it was really cold down here. I have a plant called a Fatsia japonica that usually doesn't wilt during the winter, and it's been wilting the last few nights. It's fine, but it's just an indicator of how cold it's been.
Yeah, so it's been hanging out indoors, ready for the springtime.
Oh, yeah. Are you growing anything inside this year?
No. Indoor cannabis growing got to be a little bit too expensive because of power bills and everything. And so I'm not doing that as much anymore. And so no, I'm not growing anything indoors.
That makes sense. It does get expensive. One of the ways I've mitigated that expense is I brought all but one of my tents into my studio here. So I'm actually co-located with two of my cannabis tents because it's actually easier to heat a space inside the house to the right temperature than something like the garage like I was doing.
Yeah, it's much more efficient for me to grow outdoors, and I'm way better at it than indoors. Indoors, I can grow pretty decent cannabis, but it's not as I'm outdoors. It's way better. So I'm sticking to the outdoors right now. It does take longer the whole summer and all that, but it's a little easier.
Yeah, it is. It's fun, especially up there. Y'all don't have the pest pressure we do down here because of how prolonged the cold is. So I understand you did grow outdoor this last season. How did harvest go?
It went well. I kind of interesting thing happened. Well, I got like 15 clones from our producer. The way it works here in Washington is you can get plants from these I-502 producers. So you can find one that will hook you up with clones. I get mine from a producer called Raven Grass. You're up here in Tacoma and support them. But I got like 15 plants, and it's like 4 or 5 different strains. I couldn't tell you any of the strains. There's some, one that had black in it, and I think there was a blueberry train wreck and things like that. But I quickly lost the little tags that went with the plants. Being blind, I couldn't read them anyway, so I lost track of all the strains. But I grew them over the summer, and so my sort of strategy was instead of trying to grow like a whole bunch of big plants, I'd grow like 15 smaller plants, get like 3/4 to an ounce off each one, and that'll add up. I grew them in like little 2 or 3 gallon pots and kept them spread out so the disease didn't mess with them. Because the year before I got hit with mold, so
oh yeah, I remember that.
Really wary about that because it can happen. And then I think a couple years back I got hit with mold too. It has some pretty big plants that they got hit. So this year I was really paranoid, I guess I'd say, about that. And I was just like, that is not happening again. So I took a lot of precautions with that. And then the fall rolled around, so it's come to time to harvest. So up here, like 56 days or whatever it is around October 15th here in Washington State. So, but it's really hard to get a plant to go that far because about around October, it always raining right around that time. That's like right about the time that all the rain starts coming in.
Right.
The temperatures drop. So, this year I was really just watching that. And so it was like September 26th, we were going to get a 4 or 5 day rainstorm come in. In the past, I'd like try to weather that. Like, all right, we'll make it through. But, being blind, I could get like a sighted person to get like one branch, get some mold on, they cut it off and then keep an eye on that, keep it
right
back so the mold don't spread. Well, me, I can't detect it. Over the years I've learned, even though I can try to, I'm not able to detect the mold. So I just said, whatever this year, that rain hit, and I wasn't even going to risk it because I was like, well, I'd rather have, because I have a family member that swears picking plants early is the best way. So not when the hairs are like dark red, but more like white to orange. Because their theory is like it's a flower, so that's like the most potent time when the terpenes are like really going about that time. And then by the time they get to red, the plant's sort of dying away. So a lot of that's kind of changed.
Yeah,
that's the THC maturing. So there's a lot of big debate and all that. But I was like, but the thing is about that, I wasn't too worried about the 26 early harvest. but I've never harvested that early before, so I was like, oh man. But thinking about it too, I mean, if it's not converted to THC yet, it still is CBG, and you're going to lose some weight, But I wasn't too worried about it, and I harvested it, and then I cured it really well, and kept an eye on that cure, and I got about 4 ounces plus all the shake and everything. It turned out pretty good. It's
good,
really smelly, and got a really strong terpenoline on some of them. But like I said, I'm bad, Dig. I took it all and mixed it all together in jars, so I have no idea the strains and everything. So it's all basically.
I've seen your freaking salad jars.
So it's basically all turned into like the same cannabis. But man, it's like cured in there. Some of the buds, you take it out of the bottom of the jar, it's like turned into like these little crystal nugs. So yeah, it's been real. It was really good. So this year, I'm trying to do the same plan. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I smoked some of that while I was up there. It's not bad.
Yeah, but yeah, we got to see you. Uncle Dave came and visited 2 weeks ago. It was great to see him, and yeah, we got to exchange some homegrown, and you had a good year too. It left me with some of the Afghani red, and that was good too.
Yes, sir. That stuff was pretty good. I would have liked it to fill out a little bit more, but I could have let it go a little bit more. But we were running up into some really cold weather too. So I've
gotten where it's not worth risking it. You know what I mean?
No, especially so sometimes so I will push plants into rainy weather. It just kind of depends on, I'm sighted, so I can really monitor the humidity. I can watch it. I can go out there and shake it off. If I see any spot of mold, I'll pull it. I can get, like Lukas says, if you can see it, you can really kind of ride the razor's edge. But he has the problem where if mold breaks out on his plants and no one's looking at them for him, he doesn't know. So like you can't. There's certain things he has to do a little differently. But I don't always push. Sometimes I do. I already had grown an indica, or no, this was my indica that I needed. So I wanted to make sure I pulled it, my nighttime meds, so that it didn't mold out. So I pulled it probably like a week early, I would say. Not crazy early, but a little bit early. It could have gone a little bit further. Now, I understand that you've been working with, changing the topics a little bit, you've been working with the Tacoma Psychedelic Society on some psychedelic reform recently. Yeah.
I've been doing cannabis activism since 2015. I got into that. And, the psychedelic thing has always kind of been there in the back of my mind, literally. I used psychedelics back in the 90s, kind of. At the time, I didn't know it, but looking back, it really helped me get over some really bad bullying and things like that I had in high school. It sort of kind of propelled me on up through that to kind of get over that. It helped me with my depression and everything. But back then, we didn't really know about healing. But psychedelics has always been kind of there. But you know how it is, Dig. It's such a taboo subject where it's not really even brought up in activist circles necessarily as far as wanting to legalize and everything. Well, recently we had lots of cities around started saying, hey, let's decriminalize this. And I got DC, of course, Colorado, Denver, all over the country to decriminalize psychedelics. Seattle decriminalized just mushrooms. And then recently Olympia decriminalized natural psychedelics. And then so right around in 2019, 2020, I was doing the cannabis reporter thing, and I would get a lot of the entrepreneurs sort of put me on like their psychedelic beat, I guess. Like they would take all my psychedelic stories. And so I wrote about that for 3 or 4 years until I stopped writing for them. And then during that time, I was reaching out to my city council person and being like, hey, when are we going to do this in Seattle? And then there were some people also doing that too, sort of parallel with me. We didn't know about each other. And they had formed a group called Decriminalized Nature here in Tacoma quite a long time ago. I don't remember the exact year, but I remember hearing about them on Radio Tacoma, actually.
I've heard about them too. Yeah. Decriminalized Nature. Yeah. I've heard. I think they've been on some podcasts that are based here in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, but I can't remember which ones. I don't know if it was Oregon Rooted or another cannabis and like kind of psychedelic themed podcast. I don't remember now.
Yeah, and they were doing things too. And then about a year ago, one of the organizers with them, or they got up with some other people and started Tacoma Psychedelic Society. And then about a year ago, they contacted me and was like, "Hey, do you want to work with us on this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been working on this too." And I started working with the Tacoma Psychedelic Society, and it really did feel. I mean, I like cannabis activism, but I feel like psychedelic activism is really my where I feel really comfortable. My first activism act ever was a psychedelic activism thing. When I was in high school, we had this physics class, and we had to do a project. So they were like, "Well, you need to choose a pseudonym." We could choose a pseudonym. Well, I chose my thing was like Timothy Leary, and like nobody knew who that was in my class. And I think my teacher did, was like looking at me like, "What the heck?" But so I've been into psychedelics for a long time, and this is really great. And so what's happening is Tacoma is actually going to. They're not using the word decriminalize. They're going to do similar to what they did in cannabis in 2010 in Tacoma. They're going to make, quote, entheogenic practices the lowest priority for police. So, it'd be not necessarily, quote, decriminalized, but the police aren't going to be out there looking for people growing or using mushrooms. And I think we need to get some clarification what will actually happen if police find you with mushrooms. Because like down in Olympia, they decriminalized these natural psychedelics, and now Olympia is having like farmers markets and stuff with psychedelic substances.
We gotta go to one of those before they get shut down. Real talk.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know if they're going to get shut down, Dick. I mean, this is they still got these cannabis markets which they're trying to shut down, and they've had sort of out in the open psychedelic markets in Olympia for quite a long time. Actually, it's been several years, and as far as I know, they haven't had any kind of problems with it. Now it's just becoming like more out in the open. So it's yet to be seen what's going to happen in Tacoma. So we are going to go down to the city council and talk on Tuesday about that, and hopefully Wednesday, then psychedelics will be basically decriminalized in Tacoma. And we do other things like integration circles. This is very interesting idea. Are you familiar with the integration?
Kind of vaguely. It's kind of like a therapeutic interpretation of your trip during and after the fact, right? Sort of.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you come in. It's not like therapy, but you come in and try to integrate it into your regular life by sharing it with other people. And then we also do book clubs, and we go out and table at other events. We'll probably have a pretty big tabling season this year with festivals there. So after the decriminalization efforts over, it'd be interesting to kind of see where we go with the organization.
Huh. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that'll be really interesting. I'd look forward to hearing in a few months maybe some updates on what's happening with that project, if it moved forward or if it got stalled. I know for many, it was years. We on our other show, the Cannabis Corner, we advocated for the repeal of the tax on Washington cannabis patients, and they finally did that. And I don't know about you, but I had all but given up. It had been years, and it finally went through. So that was kind of a shot in the arm, if it will, and it kind of gave some optimism to me about what we can accomplish moving forward.
Well, I hate to bust your optimism. Would you like to hear some update news on that, Dave?
Oh, motherfucker!
I'm kind of saving this for the Cannabis Corner, but we can break the news right here on the Backseat Chronicle.
Oh, geez, what happened?
Man, this is really interesting. So I was at now that you brought it up, I wasn't going to bring this up, but now I was at a medical cannabis summit hosted by the Cannabis Alliance back in December at some point, and they had the LCB and the Department of Health there. so patients and activists and business owners were there with those two agencies. Somebody in the crowd brought up that, so it's a 37% discount, right?
Yeah.
So if you come in with your card, you get a 37% discount. Well, somebody in the audience brought up and asked the LCB what they were going to do about it. The stores were and are jacking up the price and taking that 37% cut for themselves.
Wow.
Now, check it out. I didn't believe it. Well, it's not that I didn't believe it, but I was like, wow, that's crazy. I
Yeah.
experienced this myself, dude. It happened to me. I went into a store. I was buying quarters for $50 a piece with the discount. Like the best cannabis in the state, basically. I know the people that grow it. I was like, this is my brand. I was going in there and getting quarters for $50, which is not too bad.
Right.
Well, I went in there one time last month and they were like, all right, it's going to be $67 a quarter. So I experienced this firsthand and actually reported it to the LCB, and they were like, oh, well, we're trying to do something about it. I got some advice from fellow activists. It's like,
They shut down so many
LCB.
medical grows, and they can't go in and slap a shop owner on the wrist like today. What are you talking about?
yeah, it's pretty wild. And so I am not going to go to that store anymore.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to have to find another store. But I just can't believe it was real shocking to me. And actually kind of like, wow, now what? Because we worked really hard, like you said, to get that tax break, and greed and trying to take advantage of people, like kind of, and it's not all the stores. And so I don't know how common this is. But you got to be really wary out there. And if something like this happens to you, if you're out there listening, report it to the Liquor and Cannabis Board here in Washington State.
Yeah, it's important to report if they're ripping you off or they're not giving you your medical discount, because they're getting that money anyway. Like, that's not cool. Because then they're probably that's so messed up. That's so crazy. That's accounting fraud. First of all, you're defrauding patients. That's really upsetting.
And I don't understand how I feel like the function of it, or like why they're actually doing it, is maybe to get that, because who's going to really pay the $67 a quarter? Because I think even before it wasn't necessarily that expensive, or as close to that expensive. So it's already I think what they're doing is the patients are buying that expensive cannabis with their discount, so all their lower mid-grade cannabis is just sitting there on the shelf. So I think what it is like a deterrent to buy the expensive stuff and then pushing patients back down into that mid-grade category. That is one of the reasons I was thinking they're doing it. But I'm pessimist, so I'm looking for like what the heck. But it is interesting. It's crazy to even think why they're doing it, and if it will even work to meet their whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah. But if for sure, folks, if you can go to a different dispensary, if you've got a dispensary doing that kind of shit to you, you got to move on to a different spot. You can't reward that kind of shenanigans with your dollar. So, wow, that's crazy. We definitely need to talk about that more on the corner. And we'll flesh it out some more. So, another question you were shifting gears a little bit. We talked a little bit more before the show. You released a song. For folks that don't know, Lukas has been a DJ for many years, and he's been a fan of electronic music for a long time. And he also produces some music, and you just recently produced a song, didn't you?
Yeah, and I actually made this many years ago. I think it was back in like 2012, 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a while back that I actually made about 5 songs. Back before I stopped being able to see computer screen. I used to use this program called Zoom Text, and I'd blow up the screen real big.
Right.
And I played in the band when I was a kid, so I know the scales and I know how keyboard works and everything. And I've always wanted to produce music, and I play the guitar some, so I know music, like basic music. And I had a friend of mine give me a whole bunch of these things. They're called VSTs, or basically like plugins that go into um, like a sequencer online, so you can like plug it in. And it's like a keyboard. It make like all the crazy sounds you hear on electronic music. So he gave me a sequencer and then a whole bunch of these VSTs and a whole bunch of like samples, like 808 samples, 909. It's like a whole bunch of stuff, like 6 gigs. And I was like, well, cool. And I was actually able to produce these 5 songs using that stuff he gave me. And but that was back before when I could still, because none of these programs that I use are blind accessible, so they don't work with screen readers or anything like that. So now I use a computer; it's all screen reader. I don't even use a monitor or anything. But I was able to blow it up and make these 5 songs, and this was one of the songs that I made. I think it was the first one I made, actually. It's called "Cold Bites," and I made it and played it for a friend. His name's Santino, and he was like, "Well, here, do this and this and this," and I kind of changed a little bit. And then I just kind of sat on the shelf all these years. Well, unfortunately, this is one of those things where something bad happens, then something kind of good comes out of it. Not nearly as the bad thing, but unfortunately, really sad. My friend Santino passed away. And this is somebody, his name is Santino Fernandez. His DJ name was Morphogenetic. He's one of the people that got me and a lot of other people into electro music all the way back, like 2005. He helped me get on the radio station I'm on right now, Global Funk Radio. It was a real close friend online for many, many years. And he released a lot of records. He had his own record label, Fundamental Bass Intelligence, and they would put out a release about every year. It was always vinyl. It was always really anticipated because his thing was like New World Order, robots taking over the world, altered consciousness, like some of the electro things like science fiction, like you know, it's hard to describe. It's like a genre of electronic music that's like it's like sci-fi and all these things. So
I kind of know. I know what you're talking about. It's kind of like, yeah, it's a lot of like robo funk and electro funk with a lot of like modulated voices where they use different special effects to create cool voiceovers like that kind of, right?
Yeah. He made that his label FBI kind of really stuck to that, like government's taking over your life kind of thing, like, and all this. They really stuck to that sort of sound. And I think he had like 10 releases, and then it faded away because of different reasons. But you know, I hadn't talked to Santino in a good 2 or 3 years because we kind of went our separate ways 2016 for sort of like political reasons. I was like, well, not that I stopped talking to him, we just stopped working together.
Right.
I did real close, but I did write for his website, what's it called? Electric Kingdom. I wrote reviews for that for a good 2 years.
Okay.
So I worked with Santino a lot. He passed away, and so a bunch of electro musicians got together and said, hey, we're going to do a compilation to honor Santino because he's well known and very liked in the electro music scene. And so they put this compilation together, and I was like, well, hey, I got this song, Cold Bites. It's decent, you know, and I had actually, and I sent it to them, and they were like, well, sure, we'll release it. And they were nice enough to work on it a little bit. They like cut out some background noise and up the volume on it a little bit. It was not very well produced because, you know, I didn't ever get the levels quite right.
Right.
So they were nice enough to fix it up, make it sound better. And it put it out on that release. It's called Return to Source. So you can find it on Bandcamp. And it's like 15 songs. And I'm really honored to be on there because there's a lot of some of the biggest names in this electro music genre on there. And there I am, LBIP, Cold Bite. So that was really great and an honor to be a part of that and to keep Santino's memory alive and keep his music alive. So check out his stuff, Fundamental Bass Intelligence. I believe it's probably all on Bandcamp, and just a really great sound out of that label.
Well, thank you for sharing Santino's story. And that album is a tribute to Morphogenetic. And the track on there is track 8, Return to the Source by LBIP, Cold Bites.
Yeah, and I'm actually, right now I have probably 2 other songs I made that are release worthy. There's another one that I don't think is quite I could put out there. And I'm actually thinking about turning those into some NFTs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know much about. I'm learning about NFTs, but I'm gonna get some artwork for both tracks, and like write a, NFT. You can like write a story about your NFT and all this stuff. So the 2 tracks are kind of themed, and that's what I'm gonna try to do over this year is put out at least one of them into like an NFT and kind of see what happens with that.
Wow, getting into crypto. Crypto bro Lukas Barfield over here.
No, I have a family member who's really into that, and they talk to me about it. I'm looking at them going, I have no idea what you're saying right now.
Well, try to sell it to him. They'll buy anything. So they'll buy Dogecoin. They'll hodl anything. So you just get that into someone's hands for about $500, and then they just hodl it, and then it'll crash to 2 cents. You go major money. All right. Well, that's all I had for you today, Lukas. I know you had to get on. You got a lot of stuff. You had a busy day. You were a busy man. Is there anything else? Oh, and we're gonna play. You're gonna send me that track, and we're gonna play it at the end of the episode. So we'll play your electric track after we get off here. So people, if you want to stick around, folks, you can get to hear that track here on the Bagseed Chronicles. Lukas, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we get out of here?
Yeah, check us out, Tacoma Psychedelic Society.org, and we're also on Instagram. We're doing the Integration Circle and Book Club right now, but I do have a feeling that there'll be more things like how to grow mushrooms and foraging stuff coming up. Also, if you want to check out my stuff, of course, you can find us on the Cannabis Corner, 840.blogspot.com. All Digganize episodes coming up. And we have a new one coming out soon. And if you want to follow music and stuff like I'm doing on that, check me out over at Blind Guy Doing Stuff 7932 on YouTube. That's really where it'd be the best place to subscribe what's going on. And Freebase Radio and some other stuff will be doing some big things here in 2025. So stay tuned.
All right, everybody stay tuned. Check all that stuff out. Follow Lukas and live loud and love loudly. Let's go. And I'm going to stop recording now.